And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this finally Friday, May 29th, as June is just around the corner and temperatures out there, boy, it varies across the area today. We're right around the 90-degree mark up and down the valley, but you go out west towards Jamestown, Carrington, temperatures there are only in the low 70s as we have a few light showers from Jamestown up through Carrington, moving from south to north. We'll see more developing as we head throughout the afternoon. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. Bridgette, are you ready for the weekend?
Well, I tell you what, as I listened to the heat literally rise, like it's been going up all morning, right? And I worried a little bit about some of our crop out there. We have some very newly emerged corn and soybeans up against some black soils. And if you think the air temperature is hot, look at that ground surface soil temperature where you're probably adding another 10 to 15 degrees onto that. So if we actually get some of these showers in the middle part of the state, that's great. I hope some of them transfer over here. It doesn't sound like it until early into next week. But that young crop, because they're sitting in, the top 2-3 inches of dry soils, wouldn't hurt to get a little bit of rainfall on that.
Right, and there is some rain in the forecast. We've got this stubborn pattern. We call it an omega block, and we're right under that Greek letter omega, the big part of it. And when you're stuck in that, you're stuck in heat. And until we can get the storm out west to kind of break down that omega block, we're stuck in this heat and eventually humidity as we head into next week. I do see the pattern changing as we head towards next week, and eventually we will see more rain come into it's affecting the western part of the state, and that will eventually spread eastward as we head mainly into next week. We'll start to see some effects of it as we head into this weekend. Now, we've accomplished something just today that we haven't had since end of May and early June of 2023. And that's 5 consecutive days of 90-degree temperatures. We've had 90s all week this week. We haven't had that since 2023, end of May into early June. So it's been a while since we've had the length of 90-degree heat. And we're going to continue today. We're already at 90. We'll probably go up about a degree or so here in the FM area. And then the clouds will start to increase. And we're going to see scattered showers and thunder showers developing up and down the valley here as we head into, after about 4 o'clock, it looks like, this afternoon. And we're looking at some of those could pack a little bit of heavy rain, but again, they're going to be very hit and miss, so not everybody's going to see them. Those will diminish overnight tonight. We'll drop off into the low 60s. And then a breezy weekend. We're looking at winds picking up out of the south-southeast at about 10 to 25 and a little gusty at times. Highs both Saturday, Sunday in the low 80s. We're going to have a little bit more cloud cover around. A slight chance of a few leftover showers on Saturday. Sunday should be mainly dry. If we do see any rain on Sunday, it'll be confined to the very early morning hours. And then the heat comes back for a couple of days early next week, Monday and Tuesday. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, and possibly into Thursday, we're going to see that system finally push across the state. We could see some strong storms on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then behind that, it looks like we temper things back down into the low 80s by the end of next week. So don't get used to that, though, because what I'm seeing after late next week is another warm-up back into the 90s. And taking a look throughout the month of June, even the Climate Prediction Center just put out that this month is expected to be above normal in regards to temperatures. So the heat's going to continue, and eventually, like with this system, we will get the rain. I'm not expecting drought conditions or anything like that to develop this month, but it's definitely going to be a warmer than normal month. And, we've ended the month of May on that note, and eventually we're going to return to that heat in June as well.
So those 90-degree temperatures, you said 2023, I believe. Mm-hmm. Wasn't that the year we literally had a 100-degree swing in a 24-hour period?
Ooh,
it was at about freezing, and all of a sudden we ramped right up.
I will do some research on that. I will look into that. Was it during the month of May?
Yes.
Okay, I will check that. I will check that out on our break. I'll check that out and see if I can find that.
For sure, it was about 80 degrees, but it was a lot. It went from cover your plants to uncover everything because it was crazy.
Well, I mean, look, we just had frost last week in parts of the area, and we're in the 90s this week. So it's just been it's that roller coaster ride of a spring. We haven't had much spring. We've had
No, we haven't had much spring. We went from late winter to holy summer. So
right.
it's I don't know when we get that part back, but I can say in talking with a number of farmers who are concerned about putting pre-emergent herbicide on, they skipped some of it because it was cold. Soil surface was dry. They're like, geez, this stuff isn't going to work until we get some rain and it looks dry for a while. Well, now those temperatures have ramped up and we will get rain. So unfortunately, you have some of those naked acres out there that really are going to be a little concerned about their weed control as we go through the season, because even if you think it's dry and the pre's aren't working, as soon as you get rain, they're working, they're helping, they're preventing more of those flushes of weeds from coming. And now we are going to have some acres that are kind of standing out there without anything extra to protect them. Our hope is that we continue to get the moisture that keeps the crop moving along in a forward progress. And we just kind of watch and see. A lot of talk about, what we can do different already for next year when we look at pre's. Having longer falls the last 3 years, maybe we'll be able to do more fall application in the pre-emergent herbicide realm, since our springs seem to be much more compressed than they have been in the past.
And I'm taking a look at the climate data from back in 23, and we went from freezing to 80 degrees in a 24-hour period.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was that fast.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and that was a hot May and a hot June that year too, in 23.
We did.
Yeah.
Right now, this morning I had some text messages from a farmer out by Watford City. They're looking at spraying their glufosinate, and they're like, well, we don't have a lot of humidity right now either. That's been a change for us. And when you don't have humidity, a herbicide like glufosinate doesn't work very well or as well. Having the sunshine helps, but we don't have humidity.
And they'll be getting some of that. In fact, the areas out around Watford, they're going to have a wet weekend. They're going to have numerous showers and thunderstorms out there, so they're going to get some needed moisture out there and humidity as well.
I think they'll appreciate that. Let's just take a moment to think about. It's only been 2 years since we had wildfires, well over 100,000 acres burned through that area, and it was in the fall. So we got a little bit of snow cover, and then we had some spring moisture, so we were able to recoup those pastures and so forth. But I've read so many stories in regards to what happened in Nebraska with over 1 million acres that was damaged by wildfire. And you're now facing a situation where areas in that drought zone on the drought map, U.S. Drought Monitor, is bright red. They've had less than 0.4 of an inch of rain since those fires in March. Their pastures are not regrowing. They don't have enough moisture to kick back those plants and bring, especially those early season cool grasses and so forth that they need for livestock grazing, for cattle. They're renting pastures in Wyoming, Colorado, South Dakota, and any other place they can find them, or in some instances needing to sell off animals because they can't feed them with no pasture land. So they are sitting on literally bare ground in the sand hills. It is like sandbox sand, and they're not getting any grass to grow yet. So they're in worse shape than we are.
Yeah, it's and not much relief. They are getting some relief down there, but not out in the sandhills or the far western part of the state. So yeah, unfortunately, the drought conditions down south are unfortunately expanding. Not a good thing.
For those of you who are going to be watching the rainfall, or you've gotten some recently with your WDAY Darter plastic rain gauges, don't forget to send us your information. You can go ahead and email Dean, weather@flagfamily.com. I am ag@flagfamily.com. Glad to take all of your questions. Also, with those rain gauges, you can give us a call on the JLA Insurance phone line at 701-293-9000. We'd love to hear what's going on in your world as far as how much rainfall you have or have not got. Also, progress in the crop and so forth. And above all, you can watch what we do every day on our live stream brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. That live stream is on Acres TV, Facebook, as well as YouTube. Today is Market Uncovered with Greg Hansen with Hansen Agri-Commodities. He's going to be joining us in the next segment. We've got to catch up a little bit. What's been happening the last couple of weeks in that commodity market. And again, for all of you with your questions in regards to that, you can reach us JLA Insurance phone line of 701-293-9000. We'll return with that market update after we hear the livestock report from the American Ag Network. It is time for Market Uncovered with Greg Hansen of Hansen Agri Commodities. And Greg, it is wonderful to have an opportunity to catch up on what's been going on in the markets the last couple of weeks. Any recap thoughts you've got to share with us?
Well, it's been a lot of up and down. If you don't like the price, you wait a day because it's going to be different. We're kind of at the mercy of whatever's going to be happening with Iran. There's some rumblings. Maybe Trump will be coming out with a statement today. He had a cabinet meeting yesterday to go over the proposal that's out there. The chatter was he wanted to think about it overnight. So I think the market seems to think we're closer to a peace still than we've been in a long, long time. We've heard this before. But the markets are definitely acting like maybe we're close to getting that straight opened up. The crude market definitely shows that we're 20 some dollars off where the highs were. And then wheat kind of got beat up here since in the last week or so. I mean, since we made those highs 2 weeks ago, they've caught some rain. I think pretty much the crop is what it is. I did hear some rumblings that maybe the winter wheat crop, you won't see quite as many abandoned acres, which will probably bring your yield down, of course. If you're going to harvest some of those acres, they were going to be bad, but it would be more total bushels. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
So a couple of things that stand out in there. When it comes to that winter wheat market, I think that there's a disconnect because folks will say, but I hear you talk about winter wheat. We raise spring wheat up here. How does that impact us? And I think overall, it's just the wheat market in general. It doesn't matter if it's winter or spring as to what's happening on the board. Or am I off on that, Greg?
Oh, no, to a point, yes. I mean, there are wheat's wheat in some ways, but in some ways, each wheat that we raise has a specific job it does. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but as a whole, if one some of it you can kind of substitute a little, but if one market's off, I mean, they're all kind of interrelated.
Yeah.
So
And they
if
have
you've
there's
got
a
those winter
tendency.
wheats, if you've got those winter wheats
Go
going
ahead.
down, it's hard for those spring wheats to not follow suit.
Absolutely. And we are at our lowest amount of planted acres of wheat in the US since the 70s. Are you surprised at that? Do you feel like there could be a rebound, or is there just too much wheat globally?
Well, you've got that. I mean, we are the supplier of last resort, so we pretty much need our own needs. We do export some, but there's wheat around the world. I mean, what 10 out of 12 months there's a wheat harvest going somewhere around the world. But when you look at economics and you look at the genetics that we have now on these corn and these soybean seeds, you can raise corn and soybeans in places you could not do 20 years ago. And so I think a lot of the reason why the wheat acres are going down is just look specifically at Kansas. Look at all the corn acres that are in Kansas now. And Kansas is top 10, top 7 in acres for corn. They don't have the best yields, of course, but we've seen the row crops kind of take over, even just here in our backyards. I mean, think about how much corn is being raised towards the center and western end of the Dakotas compared to just 10, 15 years ago. The genetics are playing a part, and it just seems like lately corn and beans pencil better than wheat.
So, questions from listeners. One of them is, do you participate in the upcoming summer crop tours? And by that, I mean, we hear about USDA, top producer, all those going out and they're physically walking into fields, looking at yield estimates, etc. Is that something that you do as well, Greg, or do you watch those reports to help base some of your assumptions?
I have never been on one of the tours. It would be kind of fun to go on that Pro Farmer Tour once. But the Pro Farmer Tour is the 1 week of the year I go on Twitter. And I follow that Pro Farmer Tour religiously and it's not so much what are they actually, they say this yield is for this date and that's gospel truth. That's not the way I look at it. The way I look at it is I want to see the photos. I want to see the videos of the people that are going on, and are the things they're seeing match what we're hearing. And I always learn at least one thing by doing that. Sometimes it's something I didn't expect to learn. But as a whole, yes, I'll follow along those tours, and I use that just to help me gauge, is the crop what I think it is or what I've been hearing that it is.
To be honest, I'm on Twitter all the time, so come on over. It's fun, Greg. I love having you over there. So I was asked this morning about what niche crops do we think farmers are finding a win? Yes, we always talk about the big corn, soybean, wheat complex, but are you seeing some other areas that have really perked up a farmer's attitude as of late?
Well, everyone's always looking for that next best thing. Like me here in Southwest Minnesota, we're kind of stuck with corn and beans. I think sunflowers would work, but you're so far away from any markets. It's too warm, too humid for small grains. We kind of see that even up in the valley now, that it's more corn and bean growing weather than it is small grain weather. That's part of the reason why you're seeing the cut in the acres too that we talked about. So it's hard. I mean, I think right now oil seeds, just because of like look at the bean oil market lately, the renewable diesel side. Vegetable oils are a hot thing right now, and so whether that's flowers, canola, whatever we can create a vegetable oil out of that could get used in refining of renewable diesel, I think is something you would have to look at. Otherwise, it really depends on, do you have access to a market? I mean, people will do edibles and they'll do these other things. If you're not close to that market, it gets just cost prohibitive because of transportation costs. I think guys should always be looking at, is there something different I can do? But sometimes where you live makes things difficult.
You mentioned the soy oil market, and there's a headline I've read this week about Brazil sending cheap soy oil into the market because their biodiesel plans within their country have stalled out. They've gotten very slow. So, will we see that as an immediate impact in the market, or is that going to affect us more at our harvest time where there's too much soy oil floating around globally?
Um, right now, like domestically, the way this market's acting, I don't know if you can have too much domestic. Um,
Hmm.
Worldwide is going to maybe depend on what this El Nino does. Could it affect palm production? So when you want to talk
Yeah.
about like weather, and we're going into this El Nino, is it a super El Nino or not? Who knows? But this can affect that Southeastern Asia market. And so specifically palm rice production is something that people got to watch out for. It's not that we raise rice here, but it's going to be affected by this climate change with this pattern. But if as hot a commodity physically as vegetable oils are, palm oil is part of that. And so I think that's gonna a concern going forward is if we see a cut in palm oil, that's just gonna perk all these markets up. Now will
Absolutely.
Brazilian vegetable oil and bean oil end up here in the U.S.? Who knows? I mean, we're producing a lot the way it is. There's some plants looking at doing some expansions. As long as the renewable industry keeps moving forward like it looks like it's going to, we'll have that demand. I mean, like I say, we're crushing beans for oil, not for meal, like we had done for generations. Um, but if they've got extra, the world's going to need it. It may not end up here, but the world will need it, and we just don't have that much to export, to be honest.
And Greg, you were talking about the El Nino, Super El Nino, all that, and we are getting very, very strong signals that this is really going to start to ramp up as we head towards, let's say, the middle and latter part of summer, where those equatorial Pacific waters are going to go well above normal for this time of the year. So I would imagine, like you said, that would have effects on the market then.
Yeah, I mean, we've only had what about five that people have been able to trace, so we don't have a lot of history.
Right.
But it sounds like it can affect some wheat production around the world. It can affect some rice production around the world. It can affect that palm production. When it comes here to us in the U.S., where we live, I believe El Ninos, we tend to be a little cooler, a little damper,
Uh,
a little wetter.
it
So maybe
Yeah, it
that.
depends, but no, usually it leads to a warmer than normal winter and summer as well, at least in the northern and central plains.
Okay, because I think a regular Lino, we tend to be a little warmer, dry, or a little cooler, a little drier, but maybe with the super, it overrides that. But there's not been a whole lot of supers. I know back in the late 1800s, there was a world famine in some areas, and it was because of one of these super El Ninos. And the problem was rice production. So
Hmm.
you could see some countries that really depend on that looking for alternatives. It can affect the monsoon in India, which can affect their production. So they might become more of an importer on some wheat. And they tend to like have a lot of stocks on hand. They tend to look at the world as the glass isn't three-quarters full, it's one quarter empty, is the way they kind of treat their grain stock situation. And so they might be a more willing buyer. But like I say, I think wheat and rice are some of the, and these vegetable oils can be the things that really could potentially get affected.
Greg, thank you so very much. Always joining us on Fridays so we can talk about markets uncovered. And for those who want to visit with you outside of this during the week, where can they reach you?
Well, you can always give us a call at 507-338-6433. You can check us out on our Facebook page or check us out on the website at hanson-ag.com.
Much appreciated, Greg. Thank you. So, folks, after we hear the headlines from the news going on in the region, we'll talk more about ag headlines and touch on the weather again after we return.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. It's 1:35 in the afternoon. We do have some thunder showers developing on radar now down around the Sisseton area. There's one lone thunder shower just south of Wheaton. All of those are moving up towards the Hankinson area. Again, non-severe, but they're moving kind of in a north-northwesterly direction. You don't see that too often, but we've got that big area of low pressure out in areas of Idaho and Montana, and everything is rotating around that. So we're going to see these showers develop to the south of the FM area and move in a general north-northwest direction. So areas west of the valley stand the best chance of seeing scattered thunder showers this afternoon. As we head into the valley and east into Lakes Country, the chances diminish. Now, I do think we're going to see a few of these push into the FM area after about 3, 4 o'clock. Little lesser chance in Lakes Country, and again, a greater chance as you head out west towards, let's say, Valley City and Jamestown, up towards Cooperstown, and northward from there. Those areas stand the better chance of seeing those scattered storms, and those will linger into this evening and diminish overnight, but we can still have a few leftover showers overnight, and then the weekend looks a little cooler with the cloud cover. A little breezier as well, low 80s, and a few leftover showers on Saturday, hit and miss. If you have outdoor plans, you should be able to squeeze most of those in. And then if there's any showers on Sunday, it looks like it'll be confined to the morning hours with breezy conditions in the afternoon, and then the heat returns early next week. Highs in the upper 80s to near 90 Monday and Tuesday, and then could see some strong storms late Tuesday through Wednesday as that system moves out of the Rockies and into our area by the middle of next week, and that could trigger off some pretty strong thunderstorms then. Something we'll keep an eye on, but we could also use a little moisture, like you said, Bridgette, and let's temper these 90s that we've had, and looks like we will as we head into the weekend.
Well, for so many of us, we are still recouping from last year's chaos of storms and so forth, and there's still a lot of building projects going on. As I was on the road earlier this morning, I think I saw 4 new building sites just within a few townships of where I'm at. And if you're thinking about doing any of that, start planning ahead with Anderco. Anderco Enterprises wants to be there for your new steel, commercial, industrial, or agricultural building, whether it's your business, your farm, anything else that you might be needing to get done. And you can find them at andercoenterprises.com or give them a call at 701-277-7078. Now, as we talk about what's been happening in Minnesota legislatively, and that always seems to be on everybody's ticket, right? Because we're so close to Minnesota, we hear all the things that happen over there. This is a heads up for Minnesota farmers. There's a new paid leave program that's officially underway. And if you are an agricultural employer, it will be important for you to understand what this means for your farm, seasonal labor, and your reporting requirements. So generally, farmers are exempt from the unemployment insurance, but they are not exempt from Minnesota paid leave. And that discussion needs to be taken place at your business or your farm. The program launched back in January. So any employer with W-2 workers must register for a paid leave account and begin quarterly wage reporting. That includes farms that may only have a few seasonal employees, family members on the payroll, or even township supervisors paid through a farm business. That's a new requirement for ag employers because most farms, again, do not have to do the unemployment insurance threshold, but they must create this paid leave account. So making sure that you talk to your tax accountants, your tax preparers, and be clear about what you do or don't need to do is going to be very important throughout this year. You can even visit with the University of Minnesota Extension. They're offering ag-specific guidance on how this program works. Again, whether you have people doing planting, calving, seasonal harvest, etc., you want to make sure that you have this Minnesota paid leave taken care of so that you don't fall into any concerns on reporting and any trouble that you might have. So one thing that's happening for farmers in the region. The other, which I don't know if I'm surprised at this or I think it's maybe time we just realized it, and that is we don't have enough people who are tax preparers for farms and agribusinesses. Now, that wouldn't sound like it's very specialized, but it is. And there's a tremendous amount of tax deductions and small laws that need to be followed, all these different things that happen, and there's a real shortage of ag professionals right now. USDA has even identified that this shortfall really could be impacting most of us starting in about 2027. So that's just the next tax year for farmers and agribusinesses. That tax season, they're going to try to launch an online program to help current tax preparers become more familiar with what happens in agriculture. There's even an ag tax boot camp that you can sign up for to attend, and it's a 30 to 40 hour course that'll help you build your professional knowledge and learn some extra tips. If you have someone who's on your farm doing your tax prep and they want to be sharper with their pencil, you might say, it would not be a bad idea to attend this type of a tax boot camp and learn more. If you are curious, you are more than welcome to sign up for these things by dropping me an email, ag@flagfamily.com. I'll connect you with all the right links, who you need to find. Again, with that Minnesota Pay Leave Act, you can be doing that with Minnesota Extension. But when you talk about the tax prep and the boot camp, I can find those links for you as well. So you have something a little easier to connect with. Sometimes it's not easy to remember all those links when you're in a tractor or driving somewhere. Okay, so has anybody Googled these drone dogs and taken a look at what they look like? They're creepy.
What are they?
Okay, so Google drone dog.
Okay.
You've seen them used like for security for President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They look like this weird robotic dog without a head, like it's wearing a little jetpack. Okay, so they're
Whoa.
you probably found it. Yeah,
Yep.
they look weird. Okay, but these drone dogs are being used all over in Hawaii to protect agricultural land. A lot of companies who sell seed do seed production and research in Hawaii because they can do it year round, right? And there's so many different climates and microclimates in Hawaii. You can kind of find exactly what you need to mimic a number of places here in the US. Problem is, you need good security out there. And labor is expensive. Hiring security people to be out patrolling, looking not only for pests, wildlife that's causing a problem, like they're eating your cornfield or whatever the case might be, and even people, because you have people who are either trying to steal your genetic material or you have activists who are trying to destroy it. And it's expensive to have the labor to go along with that when you need someone. So drone dogs are now being deployed. Plus, they can climb the terrain that is not so easily accessible by people. They have little thermal cameras for eyes. They have an electro-optical camera with a 20x zoom, and they have an AI-based object detection. And so whatever that drone dog is seeing, that video feed is going right back to a human somewhere in a headquarters, if you will, and is able to identify what the drone dog can in fact see. But its job is to patrol facilities and fields, looks for intruders, for wildlife, and anything else that's not supposed to be there. And cheaper than humans. And I'm not saying that drone dogs are a great thing taking away a human's job, but there are also times where there's jobs that humans don't do well. And if you're in some of these situations, terrain in the dark at night, the drone dog is probably doing a better job than a human might on foot. So one more way to find dogs to be used, and even the AI or robotic dogs get used in jobs in ag.
And wait till 10 years from now. It's probably going to be even more crazy, more advanced.
Yeah, because we're watching, it's just as I listen to some of the things that startups want to do and some of the technological advances they're looking for. Yeah, it'll be fast and furious. If you think back what 100 years ago looked like, if you were a kid in the 1930s and you lived to the 1970s, think about the leaps and bounds in what changed in your world, right? From the party line telephone hanging on the wall of your house, maybe, to what you saw with answering machines and color television and so forth in the 70s. Our leap forward from here on out is going to be that large, if not larger. So we'll see what it looks like. All right, more stories to come, and also Dean's keeping an eye on some thunder showers that are going on in the region. We'll follow up with those next.
And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Friday, May 29th, June just around the corner. And it feels more like July out there, but our humidity levels are still quite low, but we still have thunderstorms developing on radar right now. In fact, a couple of thunder showers just outside of the Hankinson area, a more consolidated area of showers, and a few thunder showers around the Sisseton area, and then some light rain stretching from about Carrington up through Harvey, all this is moving northwestward. Also a lone thunder shower just popping up just north of Lakota. And we're going to be seeing a few more of these develop as we head into the afternoon. Now, the majority of these are going to be just west of the valley. Now, I'm not saying we won't see any in the valley or lakes country, but they'll be a little more widespread to the west of the valley. So areas stretching from let's say Gwinner, up through Lisbon, Valley City, Cooperstown, and west of there. Those will be a little more concentrated. East of there, towards the valley, I'd say we got about a 30, maybe 40% chance of an isolated pop-up storm. We'll be watching lakes country developing, let's say, out around the Elbow Lake, Fergus Falls area. Those will be the ones that will be moving northwestward towards the FM area. So, again, but the far southern valley right now, just outside of Hankinson and down towards Sisseton, those areas are getting a few showers and thunder showers now. And again, those are all moving northwestward, and we'll see a few of those. And I believe we've got a caller, Judy, on line one there, and you've got her locked there, Big Game.
And this is
Oh, there's Judy. Okay. Yeah, what's the question, Judy?
I got a question for you. My question is it going to be a very hot summer this year?
That's a very good question. And according to the LRC and even the Climate Prediction Center, it is going to be above normal. We'll more than likely, Judy, see more 90s than we did the last couple of summers. I don't want to go out on a limb and say this is going to be like 2023. 2023 was a pretty hot summer. But with the developing El Nino and the weather pattern from the LRC, when you combine those two, it does look like we're going to see temperatures above normal for the majority of the summer. Now, that's not saying we won't see our little cool spells, but overall, I think it is going to be a warmer than normal summer, Judy.
I'd rather see the cooler spells because I can't take the hot and I can't take the real cold.
Yeah, I wish we had better news for you.
I know. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, we've had a lot of people wondering about, man, I mean, it's been a hot start and we're not even officially in summer yet. And is this a sign of things to come? And for the month of June, it is. We'll see what July and August and the as that El Nino continues to strengthen, that will play a part in it as well. And that'll play a part in next winter. It'll be very interesting to see if the El Nino strengthening of the El Nino continues, is expected to continues into next winter. Now, again, that's just a piece of that atmospheric puzzle, but that affects the jet stream and how these storms come across the U.S. But the majority of strong El Ninos usually lead to a warmer than normal winter in our area. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pattern sets up late this year.
Montana State University has announced that they have a new laboratory that will provide seed testing for pathogens that affect pulse crops, their productivity, and also they're inviting everybody in surrounding states to be sure to send samples over to run through their diagnostic lab. This is the only one in the U.S. that's dedicated exclusively to the diagnostics of pulses, and so I'm talking about chickpeas, lentils, field peas, canolas, and that type of thing. This is to be detecting blights, other fungal pathogens, bacteria, viral and nematode diseases, and it's going to provide services for here in the Dakotas as well as out west to Washington and Oregon and so many other places. And they can be testing before and after seed growing seasons. So if you have seed, if you feel like in your crop there was something going on that you're unfamiliar with, you can be sending in those samples. Seed transmitted pathogens can really reduce yield and seed quality very quickly. And so by going ahead and using that regional pulse crop diagnostic lab, you can get a handle on what's happening and how bad it may or may not be. Argentina, who's been a top supplier of grain, they are currently reducing their export taxes, and they're doing it on some of their biggest ag exports throughout the next 2 years. Soybeans, they are currently at 24%. They're going to be cut on a monthly basis through the year 2027, reaching 21% at the end of next year and 15% by the end of 2028. What will that impact look like from Argentina on the global market? We don't have enough information to look at it right now, but they're also going to be cutting back on corn. They have cut export taxes as well for wheat, and they are the world's largest exporter of soybean oil and meal. They're the third largest exporter of corn. So as we continue to watch how global trade is happening, there's going to be a whole lot of shakeups, if you might say, with things like this, with that export tax out of Argentina. There are more and more technologies every year that farmers can be using. In fact, upcoming Ag Tech Week here in Fargo, the second week of June, is going to be highlighting a number of them. One thing that is always overlooked is the fact that technology can't do it all. We still need skilled people who can do it with their own hands and their own head. And skilled technicians are needed very much so in the Midwest. Quester automation, they want to change that. They want to train local technicians who can be using this technology and coaching others. It has started out as not just a lack of understanding, a lack of AI, a lack of hardware. It's actually the people locally who can go to the farm and they can work not only in poultry houses, but livestock operations, on tractors. They can get this done faster than what farmers face now, that when something breaks, they may have to wait for days. If at all, they can get some help in fixing it. So Quester is what they call a modular integrator. They install ag tech technology like sensor networks, drones, automated feeding and watering systems, and then instead of pushing a single proprietary platform, they work with an on-farm assessment, they find those pain points, and then they help bring a no headaches technology to the farm by having someone who can go ahead and be part of that repair process. So if you're wondering where, when you graduate from places like Clear Lake, out of Watertown, out of North Dakota State College of Science down in Wahpeton or Devil's Lake, you can be thinking about, how can I take that technology I learned in precision ag and apply it? Quester, and that's Questr. They are looking for more graduates. Some of their graduates have even been hired directly by farms and ranches to be in-house ag tech specialists. So the company wants to do more recruiting as well. When we think about what's going on in USDA's world, just as we've been on air, I got a press release from USDA talking about specialty crop and for farmers and their enrollment period for their payment rates. Those have just been announced. So if you are a dry bean producer in the region and you were curious what was going to be happening for you in regards to the farm, they called it earlier this year, it's assistance for specialty crop farmers. It follows right on the tail end of what we were doing for the Better Farm payments that were being done at the end of February. You now are going to be able to apply and see your payment rates for your dry beans, and there was every dry bean under the sun that I could see was listed. They listed beets, but they did not specifically list sugar beets in the tiers for payments that I could see, or the applications. So I would say that's a question you're going to want to bring up at the FSA office. But you can look further into all of this information in your applications by going to the login.gov for the One Farmer, One File access to be doing everything at once through FSA. All right, and lastly, when we think about all the technology that's on our combines and so forth, some of the times the older brought it here. And I thought this was an interesting little tidbit. International Harvester's cyclone planter, that's the reason why 90% of row planters today operate with an air metering system, was because the cyclone was the one that brought it to the market. And I know the folks that have been using the cyclone since the 80s, they were good planters, but that's where it originated from. So there's your fascinating fact for your cocktail parties this weekend.
There you go. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us on today's edition of Weather and Ag in Focus. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Don't go anywhere just yet, though. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.